Often I talk about the difference in America today than it was like 85 years ago. That's how old I am, and I was born in 1929. And at that time, America was more family oriented, more humble, because we weren't the power in the world at that time. The power was in Europe, in England, and things like that. We were considered essentially by Europeans like the country cousin, not very sophisticated, not very prosperous, not very important in the world. Now, of course, everybody was in a depression at that time, so it's not like it was an uneven comparison because that's when Hitler took advantage of the depression to rise to power in Germany. So America was nothing as far as Europe was concerned until the Second World War. And then we showed how we could fight a war and how we could make money off that war, okay, which ended up making us a rich and powerful country, that war. In other words, the people in Europe were devastated, cities destroyed, people hungry, not enough. But America sat here unaffected, loaning money and receiving great benefits from the Second World War. The only reason I mention that is because essentially that changed America, and then suddenly we become the arrogant, powerful nation in the world, not through our doings, but through our uh, gaining an advantage and using it to our advantage. Okay, part of the reason I'm saying that because America has changed a lot from the time that I was a child to today's, and then the generations that were born after, let's say, 1949 or in the 50s, enjoyed a generation of great prosperity. They never knew what sacrifice was up to the present time. And my feeling, and this is not a statement made by just me, but other people, famous people such as the Rockefellers and so forth, have expressed the fact that the greatest destroyer of a culture uh, is wealth. And we're wealthy today in America, and unfortunately, it is destroying us, especially the family. In other words, when I was a young boy, you stayed with your family as long as you can, and your family was always there to support you because you needed that. The family needed each other in order to survive in those more poverty times. But after the prosperity of America, then people made a lot of money, and the children could afford to buy their own house and their own uh, furniture and equipment for the home. And they moved away and they bought their own houses, and there was a big housing boom and a move to the suburbs because everybody wanted a house to their own. And it essentially destroyed the family. Now everybody's independent. The children don't need their parents anymore to survive. They don't need that type of thing. It's only normal when people like independence. But that independence has broken apart the family to today. Okay. Now, I mentioned I was 85, yes. And I'm in fairly good health, but it's becoming a little more difficult for me to live. Now, I want to make a comparison between two cultures. One culture, that's the Mexican culture, which is in greater poverty than America, where much of the old traditions of family still exists. In America, family has been fractured. It's split apart, and the old traditions that I knew as a child no longer exist. For example, as a boy growing up as a teenager, my grandfather, who was an elderly man and also ill, I don't know his problem. Uh, as a child, how would I know to discern his problem? But one of his problems, I guess today we call Alzheimer's. He had a long-term memory, but no short-term memory. You could tell him one thing, and 5 minutes later, he didn't know about it. But he was a great old man. I loved him. I loved being with my grandfather. My grandfather shared my bedroom until the day he died. And I remember the day he died. He died in the bed next to me. And so my family felt it was their duty. That was the old family, going back to the more or less the 19th century. Uh, Cared for my grandfather. He didn't die alone in some hospital. He didn't die alone in some house that he might have had or whatever. He died in the bed next to me. And there was no shock. I was glad to have the bedroom and shared it with my grandfather. Well, now I'm to that point where I don't have Alzheimer's. I'm in good health. But I fear that I might come to the point where I no longer can take care of my needs by himself. So I have children, some children. I have altogether 7 children. And I have, might say, just one of that group that is recent. I have a son in California. He's 36 years old. Okay, I had my last child when I was in my 50s. Okay, and as much as my son loves me and would like to help me, he doesn't see that as his responsibility. Now, he's had a hard time, I know that. We all have hard times. But I'm here and he's there. And I need him. If I sort of have the old-fashioned idea that family takes care of family, but that's no longer true. That longer time has disappeared. And my son rather stay in the United States rather than come to Mexico. And I'm not saying that he should do it. As a parent, we all want the best for our children. But it's different. And I want to make another comparison, if you don't mind. Uh, there's a woman I know here that their family immigrated to Canada many years ago. She lived in was educated and raised and lived in Canada for 30 years. She had her own business and one thing like that. And her father fell ill. There was nobody to take care of him except his daughter. So his daughter sold her business in Canada and came to Mexico to take care of her father. Now, she made that sacrifice because that's what they do in Mexico. Family takes care of family. Well, she's restarted her business here. She's still relatively young. I guess maybe she's in her 40s. And so she felt that was her duty. And surprisingly, I find many Mexicans who have returned to Mexico have done that very same thing. They have come, what has brought them back to Mexico is coming back and taking care of their parents. And what has sent many Mexicans to the United States was to earn money to take care of their parents, to take care of their family. The economy is not good here. So most of the people who do immigrate to America are people who go there to work to support their family in Mexico, which would be terribly destitute if they didn't do that. So there is the attitude in America that, oh, they just want the good life of America. I don't think most of them do, because most of them really do return to Mexico once as possible. Those who stay in Mexico might stay like 30 years or so, and when they get their Social Security, which in Mexico is a lot of money, they return to Mexico. Or when they're in United States or Canada, they're earning money and sending it home, buying businesses or property. Many, one of their main things they would like to do, and which they do, is buy apartments. So when they retire, they come back to Mexico and live off the income of those apartments. Unfortunately, America has many wrong ideas of what Mexicans are about and who they are. And I just wanted to put that point in there. Okay, I'm going to break this into segments. This is my polite here. And what I need to do, I'm a veteran of the Second World War, okay? And what I find out that America is so much into business and government that has no heart for people who need help. I know, talk about the food stamps and other programs, yes, and that, and fine, that's what's necessary. But I'm a veteran, and I have guaranteed by my government I can go to a veterans retirement home, and which I'm contemplating right now. But the problem with that is once I have to show that I have no illnesses, that I'm in absolute good health. Even though I get doctors here who will swear to it, they require that I be examined by their doctors, and they can refuse me entry into their facility if they think it's too much of a risk. Meaning too much of a risk. I might be too ill, and it's going to cost him something. Okay, I think it's unfair. I think that since I am a veteran and I'm entitled to this, there should be no stipulation loading it all on the side of the government, all on the side of the facility, whether I get attention or not. And if I don't get attention, I'm here in Mexico City. I got to travel from here all the way to Barstow, which is, I don't know how many miles, but it's 32 hours on a bus, and I don't think I can survive it. And then have to come back after that, I don't think I can survive it. It's quite a challenge to do it because I have trouble walking, and I can only walk 2 blocks. So to do all that traveling without a lot of help is impossible. So I'm thinking about this, but I'm throwing it out there to everybody how I feel. I've served my country, and now my country wants to hedge their bet that if I'm too much of a risk, they don't want to help me. Now, as you know, you've heard of the scandal of the veterans hospitals, the medical care. We do get medical care, and that is what was guaranteed to us, that at least to me before I enlisted. But we also know there's how many people have died, why they hedged their bet by appearing good and keeping their job by not helping the ones who really need help. Anyhow, I'm feeling a bit annoyed with America and where it has come to this point today, where it is only not a government of the people and by the people, but it's a government of business, by business, for business. Unfortunately, that is America today, and I'm sorry that this has been the way it is. Thank you for listening.